Hello, everyone. Welcome to Global Hack Week. I'm super excited to be here with y'all. So, kind of like a brief overview of what we'll be doing today. We'll be starting the first part of a three-part series. We'll be building a CRUD application, kind of like the focus of this series application. We'll be combining building a meal and schedule planning app using kind of like the CRUD applications. And we'll be using Flask and SQL to build that app. But before we get started, I'd love to hear how y'all's Global Hack Week is going so far. Have you seen anything interesting? I always love seeing the streams during Data Week. I haven't had a chance to see any myself so far. I recently graduated, so kind of like catching up on everything today after I got back from the weekend. But excited to hear if y'all had any interesting streams or have learned anything cool throughout Global Hack Week so far. All right. Awesome. Looks like we have some people in the chat. Glad to see it. Feel free to drop anything cool you've learned in the chat. Someone said, congrats, grad. Thank you so much. It was really exciting. I graduated high school in 2020, so I was obviously not able to walk or have a graduation then. So it was really nice to have one this time around for undergrad. Awesome. All right. Perfect. Also, in the meantime, while waiting for any more messages to come in, I do want to let you know that if you've been to any of my other streams, they're usually a little bit more structured than this one will be, with more of like slides and kind of like an overview of like the technologies. My slides, for whatever reason, did not save. So I quickly kind of like added some stuff this morning, but it will be focusing more on kind of going through a tutorial and building out during this workshop. And that'll just like be like a little bit less structured than usual, just more of us learning together. Looks like we have another 2020 high school grad. My condolences. It was not fun. We'll be using Flask to build out kind of the user interface for our CRUD application. If you're unfamiliar, Flask is like a Python web framework, kind of makes everything a lot easier to follow. And I find that it's really quick to kind of get started. If you are familiar with Python, but not web development, you're able to get started pretty quickly and get something like up and running on a local host server. All right. Doesn't look like we have any other questions. So without further ado, I'm just going to kind of get started with a few slides I do have. So my name is Gabriella. I'm a coach here at Major League Hacking. I've been here for a little bit over a year. So outside of this, I'll be at MLH Hackathons as well. A little bit about my technical background. I mostly do web development stuff, but I also am pretty interested in data, both data science, kind of like cleaning data, machine learning, as well as kind of like data integrity and like data contextualization. It's kind of like a special interest of mine. And also, if you haven't filled out your stream registration, please feel free to do that right now. I have the events.mlh link down at the bottom, and I'll also resend it in the chat real quick. All right, so make sure that you register for this event through MLH and you're able to receive whatever swag or points we're giving away this Global Hack Week. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but make sure you register your attendance. I'll give you all a minute to do that. Are we going to be using Replit? You're more than welcome to. I'll personally be using GitHub code spaces just because it provides a little bit more support with it being web-based than Replit does. All right. All right. Someone said they used for their SQL management, they use SQL Object. That is true. We'll be using SQLite today rather than SQL Object. That is also another integration with SQL you can use. Awesome. All right. Hopefully you were able to fill out the stream registration. If not, it's in the chat and I'll be sending it at the end of the stream as well. But let's move on to a little bit more of an explanation of what a CRUD app is, and then kind of dive into building out the beginnings of our app and kind of explaining what we'll be working on throughout this stream course. All right, so what is a CRUD application? A hint is it's not a bad app, it's not a cruddy app, but it essentially is an acronym that stands for the different operations that you can do. It's integrated with SQL or SQL, and basically CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. Um, these all kind of translate into different SQL functions. But essentially, like CRUD applications are basic apps that can complete all these four functions. In CRUD, it's like an easy way to manage data and also kind of like learn more about SQL and like web development. I like enjoy making these, and we'll be hopefully working towards a more complex cloud application towards the end of this series. Just kind of getting into the basics today. But basically, CRUD apps consist of databases, the UI, the user interface, and on occasion, they'll also have some more complex APIs as well. And I just realized I misspelled occasion. My bad. So essentially, the problem that we are looking to solve with our CRUD application during this stream course is food waste. So I find that like when I'm like grocery shopping or meal prepping, I'll do kind of like a more, I guess like complex way of doing it rather than just like writing out grocery lists because I'm just cooking for myself. Is I will like write out my schedule for the next 2 weeks and like see like when I'm going out with friends, like when I'll be eating at like a club meeting on campus or when I'll be like eating like outside of home just to avoid food waste. I found that if you have a busy schedule and enjoy cooking and don't like want to be wasting food, especially as like if you're just cooking for yourself, this to be like a fairly easy way to kind of like avoid that and have like a plan like going forward for um, the rest of your weeks. I'll explain a little bit more detail as we get over to GitHub code spaces, but essentially what we're trying to do with this application is ensure we're not wasting food, reaching any particular health goals that you may have while managing a busy, somewhat unpredictable schedule. This application will be able to add and kind of update plans. So if, for example, you make out your 2 week plan with like all of your like calendar, like the different like plans you have on your calendar, and something changes because 2 weeks out is a little bit far in advance, especially for college student, you're able to adjust that, and then the CRUD app will hopefully be able to kind of like adjust in line with that. So yes, that's kind of what we're looking to solve with our CRUD app. So it's a little bit more in depth of what we'll be like looking to do with our Flask app. So what we'll be doing is we'll have a few different components. We'll have our meal plan and our schedule plan, which will create a grocery list. Today, we're going to just kind of be walking through the basics of creating a grocery list with like the CRUD operations, but in parts 2 and 3, we'll be combining those with the schedule and meal plans that it's kind of like all pieced together. So essentially what we need to do for CRUD applications is to be able to add, update, and delete individual meals in our database to create a meal plan. So you're not just having the same meal over and over again. If you were, I guess, interested in doing that, you wouldn't necessarily need an app to do that. You could just make the same meal over and over again. And a way that we might be able to make it more advanced, if we have the time for it, is adding extra schemas for different meal plans in the future. So for example, if you have different meal plans based on different dietary restrictions or different health goals, you'd be able to kind of like categorize it by that in this schema. So having, for example, maybe a high protein meal plan for like when you're trying to build muscle, and for another time, if you're trying to, I don't know, like watch your sugar intake, you could have like another meal plan that is like low carb and low sugar, and kind of categorize those by schemas based on one, who you're cooking for, if you're cooking for other people as well, but also like any particular health goals you might have. That would be a little bit more advanced, and we might get to it. We'll see. And then kind of the second piece is a schedule plan. Like I said, this is kind of for managing a busy schedule alongside your cooking. So what you'll be doing for a schedule plan is the same operations as with a meal plan. just adding, updating, and deleting individual meal plans in our database. And this is to create, this says meals, so it should say plans. So this is to create like your schedule plan, which is also known as a calendar. What I think could be helpful is to have a more advanced integration by adding in a Google Calendar. So you don't need to manually add in all your plans into this Flask application, but we will see if we have time for that throughout this Global Hack Week. Depends on how many errors we're getting and kind of like that. And then finally, based on these two pieces of data, we want to kind of create a grocery list. So based off of our schedule, we'll be creating a meal plan, just kind of like populating in those different meals throughout the week. And each of those meal plans will have a list of groceries. So we'll be able to create a grocery list that will be generated from like the combination of a meal and schedule plan. And it will also have CRUD applications. So you're able to kind of update and delete individual items off the grocery list. So for example, if the meal plan says you like need an onion for whatever meal you're cooking, but you already have like a case of onions at home, you obviously don't need to go out and buy those from the grocery store. So that's kind of like what the end result will be, and we'll kind of be putting the pieces together throughout this stream. All right, so this will be the bit.ly link for the GitHub at the end of the stream, but right now there's nothing in that particular GitHub page. It's just an empty repository, and we'll be following along the grocery CRUD tutorial, and then kind of integrating the different pieces in this part of the stream series. All right. So let me go to code spaces. I'm going to create a new code space, which will just be based off of this. We'll do actually, okay, GHW. Here we go. So we're setting up a code space. If you're unfamiliar, GitHub code spaces, it's kind of similar to some functionality of Replit, but you're able to pull in a whole GitHub code space and code in the browser. I like it because you're able to do things with like Flask or React a little bit more easily because you'll have the local host. It's easier to access. Whereas I found with Replit, sometimes I'll get the error of like you're not able to access this local host because it's on Replit servers, and it can be more difficult to access, whereas GitHub code spaces makes it really easy to access the local host of your application. So as you can see, quite literally the only thing in this is our README. So the first thing I'm going to kind of write out are like the different requirements for our application, so we can kind of see how we need to piece together the different things we learned throughout this stream. So going to go back to here. So we need a meal plan, our schedule plan, and our grocery list. So application needs, we will need our meal plan, our grocery list, not grocery list, and our schedule plan. And within all of these, I'm going to break right out like what specifically we'll need to do and how we're going to be piecing the puzzle, like the different, piecing all these together to kind of like have a full application. So for the meal plan, we'll just essentially be having different recipes. We want to cook throughout the week, month, year, etc. And we can, of course, change these with CRUD applications. So basic, add, update, and delete meal. And I'm kind of also going to be writing out like what I think these SQL schemas need to have. So essentially like what different aspects we need to have in our application when we're storing the data. So for the meal plan, I think like what we need for each individual recipe, because that's what's going to be going into our meal plan, is a bunch of recipes to create a meal plan. So I think we'll need our, let's see, meal ID. This could be a number, but another option that we could also have is having like just like the recipe name. I think would be like a pretty good idea. I think that would be easier to search by rather than indices with just like numbers. Outside of that, I also think like the serving size, not necessarily in like how much food will be a serving size, but like how many people the recipe feeds. So like it is just showing the number of people the recipe feeds. So if you're doing this by yourself, you're able to see like how many days you're able to eat this particular meal. If you're cooking for two, you're cooking for like a larger family, you're able to see how many times you're able to utilize this meal, like once you cook it once. Then after that, I think just kind of like some basic like, nutrition information. So we could have like just like I guess like basic macros of carbs, fat, and protein. In grams, these would all be individual. I think we'll just do individual. That would make the most sense. And then you can, of course, add and delete these if like you don't see them to be necessary. You don't need all this in your database. I would also say that you would need the ingredients. And I think this could just be kind of in like stored with like within a dictionary within this particular meal plan. So you're able to see all the different items you need as well as like the number. Easy. We're able to kind of like cycle through all that and add it to our grocery list as well as the actual recipe, which will just like kind of be like a text-based thing. We could also potentially just have like a link. So if we're taking in a bunch of recipes that aren't necessarily our own, but we're just like getting off of the internet, this should just be like a link to a recipe we found online. This could potentially lead to some issues if like the link gets delisted or like whatever like food blog gets like, I don't know, like they just like delete it or something. So that could lead to some issues if we just do a link, but I think like we could go around that with like the Wayback Machine if it gets to that. But this may be a little bit too in-depth for what we need right now. I think for each individual meal in our meal plan, this seems to be like a good amount of information. If there's anything else that y'all think we should add to the meal schema, feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll like I can add it into the schema as we go through this. So I'm going to do kind of a walk through the same outline process for schedule plan and the grocery list. So for our schedule plan, we'll be needing to have just our plans throughout the next week, month, year, etc. And something I want to emphasize is like you can integrate like your entire schedule into this, but it's not necessarily needed for our like the purpose of the app. Because what the purpose of the app is to, like to kind of like generate your grocery list and your meal plan. I think like what would be kind of like bare bones like MVP of this app would just be rather than integrating your entire schedule, integrating any plans you have that will affect like your eating for the next week. So like if you have like, I don't know, like a scheduled like work stand-up call, that might not be like super relevant to include in your schedule plan. But if you have like, I don't know, like a work lunch or you're meeting like a college friend for dinner, or maybe you're going over to your parents' house to like meet your family for dinner, like that would affect your schedule plan if you're just cooking for yourself or just cooking like outside of that. So you're able to see like which plans are kind of like taking care of your food for that particular meal and which are not. So kind of like what we need to have is just like a eating maybe eating location, and like it could be like two basically options. The eating location would be at home and then just like not at home. We can add additional locations to specify where, but I think like that kind of will be like basic logic for us to see whether or not we'll need a meal from our meal plan for that particular day at that particular time. So eating location, I think our plan ID could just be like what the plant is, and it will just be like kind of like basic text. So for example, work lunch, dinner at mom's house, or let's see, party at John's. I don't know. These are some like basic ones. And then we could also include some like plans like where you'll be at home. It could be movie night with roommate, so you'll be cooking at home, or studying for finals, and you'll be eating at home while you're studying for your finals. All right, so we need our eating location, the plan ID, and then additionally, what we'll need is kind of like the date and time. So date is going to be kind of like a basic like month, date, year, and then for the time, we could do by the actual time, so hour, minute type of thing, or we could also just do meal times of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, kind of like based off of that. I think like breakfast, lunch, and dinner may be easier for the MVP, as it will kind of like make the whole like meal plan processing, the meal like planning a little bit easier, as it would just be breakfast, lunch, or dinner rather than converting the time of day of our plan to the meal times. So I think that's pretty much all we'll need for our schedule plan schema. And then I also am going to add in basically the operations we'll need to do. We'll need to add, update, and delete our plans. For grocery list, this is basically just like what foods we need to buy for our meal plan, based off of the meals in the next 2 weeks. Able to add, update, delete individual items. If you need more seasonings or already have some of the food at home. Okay, and then for the grocery list itself, I think the only two things that we'll need are essentially just like the number of a particular grocery item as well as like the name of it. So just count. This will just be like a basic integer that's like the number of grocery items needed. And then outside of that, we'll have our grocery ID, which will be the particular like food item. So just like the text, and it's going to be name of the grocery item. All right, this seems to be like a pretty good overview of what we'll be needing, pretty good overview of the schemas we'll be needing to build out. So before we get started with the tutorial that I have with like SQLite and Flask, I'm going to install a few different extensions into code spaces. This is like something you would do like just normally if you had VS Code locally. But the only annoying thing about code spaces is you have to manually add in the extensions if you're not fully synced with your VS Code, which I have not done yet. So in addition to Pylance and Python, I also want to have Copilot just for some easy debugging and Copilot chat. All right, so I think these are both installed. All right, we can go back here, get rid of the extensions. We have, okay, perfect. And here we can, as you can see, have GitHub Copilot chat on the side for some easy debugging. So what we'll be using for the beginning part to kind of learn more about the Flask app and SQL is this tutorial. We won't be watching the entire thing, but using this kind of like as a base to learn more and walk through like the coding together. All right, so I'm gonna skip the intro and we're just gonna kind of get straight into the starter file walkthrough, which I'll pull up right here. I will say that this particular tutorial, the deployment, I think is out of date because it's waste script, which no longer exists. Yes, waste script is no longer with us. And then we'll be implementing some of this into our app, but then adjusting it for our particular use case. All right. And if you would like to follow along, you can open up VS Code or Code Spaces, but I'll be sharing, I'll be pushing all this to GitHub at the end of the stream as well. Awesome. Okay. And if, just to check in, if you're not able to hear the audio of the video, let me know. I'll turn on closed captioning as well, as I'm kind of going back and forth, but I'll be talking through the whole process as well. But I'm pretty sure that my audio is sharing this particular tab. Okay, let's get started. All right, I'm gonna create these files over in my repository really quickly. So we'll just make a quick app.py. And then I'm also going to be making the grocery list database file as well as the grocery list Python file. And I do think it's probably a good idea to install Flask locally. Perfect. And then SQLite as well. Okay, I forgot that SQLite is part of code spaces. Perfect. All right. So let's get back to it. It looks like y'all cannot hear the audio. Let me adjust the settings and see if I can fix that. All right, let's see if I can fix this real quickly. If not, I'll just talk through everything and turn on closed captions. Oh, I see. Okay. So with how I have it set up, I have to share an individual tab to share audio, which won't be conducive for us coding back and like going back and forth between the code screens. I'm going to just turn on closed captions so you're able to kind of see the auto-generated captions for the video. I'll also be explaining things as I'm kind of following along with the tutorial and applying it to our use case. So here we go. All right, so I'm going to bring over these starter files. And then we'll be making adjustments throughout this. I'm just going to kind of keep the secret key as what it is on the starter file. And y'all can adjust that later, and I'll be adjusting it if I were to deploy it, but we won't be deploying it quite yet. All right, so bringing this over to the app.py file, as well as, let's see, let's view the raw of grocerylist.db. That's going to be viewed locally, I think. Yeah, okay, so it looks like it's just empty for right now because it's going to, I guess, generate based off of this Python file and our connection to SQL So I'll be bringing this into grocery list, and then we can follow along while making adjustments. All right. All right. Let's bring that over real quick. So it'll be going, yes, okay. Right underneath get DB function. And I want to turn off autocomplete in here. I think it's maybe suggestions. Okay. And then, okay, that should save. Perfect. Okay. We're just going to have it's equal to, after that, we're going to execute. No, okay. Cursor. Groceries, and then we want to return everything. And then up here, we are running getDB. And then we're going to be all right. Okay, so like I said earlier, waste script doesn't exist anymore. So we'll be just deploying this locally for the duration of this stream series. So we're getting an internal service error. No such table groceries. Interesting. Okay. Let's look through and see. We have groceries right here. I think we maybe need to execute this really quick. Okay. And then let's try running our application again. I'm going to open it up in the browser. Okay, here we go. That's all I needed to do. We had the grocery list in the Python file, but it wasn't actually created yet because it hasn't been run. So like I said earlier, we're going to have our application being deployed to a local host server that is like hosted like through GitHub code spaces. We're getting the same thing as we were in the tutorial. Let's see. Yes. Yes. I'm just going to skip through. Here we go. So we have the same thing. We're following along, and we're going to be like get our grocery list. For this particular grocery list, it's returning the ID of each of the items in the array rather than the number. When we go through at the end and adjust this to make more sense for our particular use case, we'll change this data structure into a dictionary, just so we're able to see the number of groceries we'll be needing. And we'll kind of like define the count of every single grocery to 0. initially, and then as we go through and kind of connect them with our meal plans, that's when we will adjust the count we need for our groceries. All right, so let's continue. All right, so basically what she just said was that we don't care about the ID, which is what I had just gotten done saying. And we are going to change the SQL command from select all, which is the star, to just select name. And then we are going to create a variable that is all, that should say data, not date. And we're putting in that cursor fetch all command to kind of like assign that information to a particular variable rather than just returning it altogether, so that we're able to start manipulating how our data is being shown on the UI. Okay, so let's continue. All right. Basically, so in order to adjust for like getting rid of the index that was we're returning earlier, they're being returned like a tuple with the index and the name of the grocery. This next line of code that we'll be going through will be kind of like adjusting for that, as well as just kind of converting it each item to string before we get to the return statement. So right here we see like we have, oh, I need to go back like 5 seconds. The all data being reassigned to this like for loop inside of an array is adjusting for getting rid of that index as well as converting it to a string. So I'm going to add that up here. So all data, and we're going to be assigning it to a string of value 0 for val in all data. And then after that, we'll be adjusting our return statement to be all data. So we're getting the updated, cleaned version of our application. So rather than returning cursor fetch all, we'll want to return all data, and we'll see what's happening next. All right, so this is just going to return the first item in our newly cleaned data. So I'm going to refresh our localhost deployment. Sometimes it can be a little bit finicky, so I'm going to kill the localhost connection and run it again, and we can see how it looks now. So as we can see, we're just getting the particular item at this. I'm going to see what happens when I change it to just data for our return statement. I will refresh this. Again, I need to kill the connection. and then refresh this. All right, so we're getting our object. I want to pretty print it. Okay. Interesting. Let's see if that is what's supposed to be. Okay. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of a different response. Let's see basically what's happening and if I just like mistyped something. Okay, so we want to have data. So it should have just been returning apples. We have our grocery list right here, our app.py. So all data, we're fetching everything, and then we are going to convert each particular item to a string and just taking the first index of our tuple, and we're looping through and adding that all to a list or a list or an array, depending on which language, and then we're returning all data. So it should be returning all of these just like in a normal array. And then if we do data at 0, we're just getting the first one. I'm going to run our Python file again. Okay, table of groceries already exists. Let's try running the Flask app again. Flask run. Okay, let's kill this, and run it one more time. All right, let's refresh. Okay, interesting. Okay, so we should be getting all the database is all right. We're returning that, returning all data for value in all data. We're fetching everything, selecting name from groceries. All right. I'm going to continue on with the tutorial. If we run into more issues from this, we will adjust the errors right then. I think it's just not properly reading everything right now. I'm not quite sure why. All right, so basically what's happening now is that we are going to be creating our template for our Flask application. So I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to create a folder. I think it's going to be called templates. And then within that, we'll have our index.html and we'll add in some styling later. So we'll also need a new file, index.html. And rather than typing out all of that, I'm just going to ask Copilot, can you add in what I need for a basic index.html file. And it's going to add in all the doc type information. I'm going to accept these changes. For the title, I'm just going to change that to meal and schedule CRUD app. And then we'll be following kind of like the Flask templating for the body as well. So we're able to access and make sure that that connection to our database is working. So I'm going to delete all of this, leave in the script connection to JavaScript, and then actually add in a script.js file for later use. But for right now, I'll just be following along with this so we can actually get our data into this file. So basically, this is just a like normal for loop, but we're using Jinja, which will create different HTML elements for every single item in our database. So I'm going to just be creating like that basic P element, and then we'll be putting in each individual item so that once we get that database connection, like all properly connected, we're able to see all those specific items in our Flask application. All right, so basically we're just rendering our template. So we're rendering this index.html template in our app.py file. So rather than returning this right here, it's going to be returning our template. So we're going to render template, and we're going to enter in the argument index.html. This needs to be in quotes. And then we also need to set all data equal to data, because in our index.html, we are looping through the variable all data. So we need to tell our render template like which specific variable that is. And that will allow us to view the information. So I'm going to delete the second return statement because you can't have a second return statement. And then we can continue following along here. All right, let's see if it's working. So we'll do Flask run. And then we'll open it up in the browser. Internal service error. Either the server is overloaded or there is an error in the application. Fun. Okay. Let's see. I think it's because I've been killing and running the application often. So let's go back here and look at the ports. Okay. Forward a port to access your, okay. I'm gonna run app.py. Okay. We're going to open in a browser. Either the server is overloaded or there's an error in the application. I don't think there's an error in the application because we followed everything pretty much to a T. Okay. Index.html, it's in templates. All right. Okay, and encountered unknown tag N4. We're getting our error here. Let's see. In our index file, I think rather than going back, so she has the end files that I'm just going to quickly reference, and we can see that that's templating. Okay, just a regular end for loop for, okay. So we're following that correctly, which means we don't have maybe Jinja properly installed. Okay. So I'm going to talk to Copilot and see what we can do to do this. So this is like if you're unfamiliar, basically like ChatGPT geared towards development. So I'm going to say, let's just do the fix command and see if it is able to figure out this error we're getting. Oh, okay. So the error message I'm seeing is from the Jinja 2 templating engine, which is like what Flask uses to have templates. It's saying that it encountered an N4 tag, but didn't find a corresponding 4 tag. Just interesting, we have the 4 item here. Do we need some more spaces? Or let's see. I don't think this should be the reason I'm getting issues, but see. Oh, I see what I did here. I did not close the paragraph tag. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what the error was. Perfect. Okay, we're getting the generator object, but we're not accessing everything properly. So I'm also going to ask why we're not able to see it. Okay, so it's at this particular index. Okay. All right. So rather than seeing the actual values in my database, I'm seeing this. Do you have any idea why I'm not seeing the actual values? All right, so indicates that I'm trying to print a generator object, not the values that the generator produces. Okay, so the generator isn't maybe producing it properly. In Python, a generator is a type of iterable, like a list or tuple. They don't hold all their values in memory at once. They generate each value on the fly as you loop over them. To print the values in a generator, I need to loop over the generator and print each item. In your case, you might need to modify Python code and loop over the generator to create them. Okay, so it's saying all data is item for item in generator. So let's see if this is the issue, and it might just be because we're not deploying it through a server. Let's try this. Okay, generator is not defined. Oh, okay. let's see if that is it. I think G is just shorthand for generator, and we can see if this fixes our problem. Go to this, just refresh. Okay. Item for item in generator. I'm going to comment this out and just see what we're getting. Okay. Database, we're just getting, okay. What if we just fetch all the items again? Is that going to work? Because it was working earlier. So I'm curious what we did differently that is preventing us from accessing it again. Okay. Oh, here it is. Interesting. So because we're just selecting the name from groceries, it is returning each of the items just in a tuple. So this should be, oh, I think I maybe see what the issue was. I think I just didn't close this, maybe? Yeah. So the string is around the entire, always the simplest stuff. The parentheses was surrounding the entirety of this. So it was converting string, it was converting this entire for loop into a string. So that's why I was getting the database. Um, like I was getting like the object of the particular database rather than an individual value because of a misplaced parentheses, I believe. Let's run this again, verify that is, yep, that was what it was. That was a silly mistake, but that's what happens. Always the little stuff, at least for me, I always mess it up with little things. Okay. Okay. So now we're at the same place. So basically what's happening now is that we are, rather than just returning all of the items in our grocery list, we're going to begin our CRUD applications. So we'll be creating each individual item as an option in our survey. The end product of this CRUD application will be a grocery list, like where you're able to add, like update and remove different grocery items. So this is kind of like the beginning of that while interfacing with our UI. So that I'm gonna fully watch this, and then we can bring something similar over to our code space. All right, so let's bring that over to our template. So inside of this is where we're going to be adjusting and like adding that form logic. So each individual item will be using the post method. I'm quickly going to just have div ID, and we're going to set that equal to our form. That's not what I wanted to see back here. And then we are going to add in our, let's see, form action is equal to add item. And the method is going to be post. All right. And then inside of that form, we'll be needing to add in our different items. So for we'll have our select. This is like where we're selecting our different groceries that we want to add to our application. We're going to have select name, and then it's going to be equal to select items. I'm going to change the form ID to be add items to make sure that it's properly stored. And then we'll be having our for loop where instead of the print statement, we'll be having our actual form option. So instead of P, we're going to have option value item. And next thing we're going to have is just this within the brackets. This needs to be option. And then after that, we're ending our for loop, and we also need to add in our submit button so we're actually able to submit our form. Input action is going to be equal to submit, and then the value will be add item. I'm gonna make sure that I brought everything over properly. Div ID is equal add item. Action is equal to add items. Method is post. That's aligning with our C part of the CRUD acronym. Select items. We're going through the option value is equal to our item. And we're putting item as the text that we're seeing for the item on form. And we're ending our for loop before we have our submit. Making sure the spacing is all working correctly. This, all right, needs to be in quotes. That would be another silly error that probably would have brought a bug. All right, I think we're good to go. So let's go back to this real quick. So basically what we're doing right here is we are creating a route for this form. So it's not actually we're not viewing the form on our main application. This is just where we're going to be selecting our different items, and it's going to be at the route add items. It needs to be a direct match to the form actions we're actually able to complete it. So similar to how the default routing, right, is just like all of this. This is what we're returning at this route. We'll be having like our function called. And we're going to be doing that for not only our grocery list, but in part 2 and 3, we'll be working through our meal plan and our schedule plan as we kind of integrate those different pieces together. All right, so let's keep at it. All right, so, and then within our add items function, we're going to just be returning our form like with the item that we selected. So return request dot form, and we'll be using select items as our particular selector. Perfect. Okay. So rather than this, we need our brackets, making sure all the characters are right. This looks like it's correct. So I'm going to kill the application and then run the localhost again. And then we'll see. Okay. Let's see what we're getting. The same thing right here, but we have this particular, we have our form, so we're able to add our items to our grocery list based off of this. So we're able to add an additional sweet potatoes to our grocery list. Let's see, this should not be, it should be a button rather than an input. Let's see what I did wrong. ID, okay, input type, submit, ID, okay. Let's go back real quick. Input type, okay. Going to our form. Oh, I did action rather than type. This should fix it. Let's see. Kill the application again, and we're rerunning it. Refresh our page. Perfect. Okay. So we'll add beef. And then as you can see, the item that got added was beef. Yeah. All right. Cool. Oh, I see. Okay. So yeah. Okay. All right, so right here, what we're doing is we're going to create a shopping list, kind of randomize our list of groceries into a random shuffle or random list, which is what we're doing with the random.shuffle command. And then lastly, we're going to reassign the shopping list variable to be just the first 5 items. So we're getting a random first 5 items on our grocery list. We're kind of seeing just like some basic, like a little bit amount of basic information for our CRUD application as kind of like a starting point. So I'm going to bring that over really quickly. So rather than returning all data, we're going to want to return shopping list. So right here, we're going to have our shopping list. We're going to be setting that equal to all of our data, and we're just going to be copying that and then shuffling it. So all data, we're going to copy it, and then random dot shuffle is going to be, we're going to like shuffle up our shopping list, and then we're going to just want to slice the first 5 elements. So shopping list is going to be equal to shopping list at our first 5 items, and they'll be changing. So basically what we're doing here, because in our function we are getting 2 different items, we're going to need to have our declaration be 2 items as well. So we have all the information kind of being properly stored. All right, so we're just kind of updating that to keep it consistent. All right, so we're just updating it in the HTML. Then I'm also going to delete this because we want just our form rather than all that information. I didn't delete it earlier from when we were changing this. So this will be the remove items form. I'm going to first kind of refresh this to make sure the changes we made have been properly adjusted. Internal service error. Okay. Let's see. Built-in. Where is this coming from? Exception on get. Okay, so all items. All items. All right, object of type build. Okay, has no length. Okay. I will be working with that error in 1 second. I'm gonna take 1 minute break to go get some more water. I feel starting to lose my voice a little bit. So y'all feel free to grab a glass of water, take a break, stretch a little bit. I'll be back in about 2 minutes. Yes. All right. Put this up. But I'll see y'all in a few. I'm gonna go grab some water. Feel free to do the same. All right, and we're back. I hope you all were able to grab some water or stretch, but now we're going to get back into figuring out what this error is. Someone in the chat said that they don't think I'm returning both lists. So let's go see. So in our Get databases, we're just returning a shopping list. Yes, that is probably what it is. So we're going to have all data and shopping list. And then here we are assigning it to all items and shopping items. So I think that should fix it. Let's see. All right. Going to refresh this page. We're still getting internal error. Has no length. All right. Let's go back and see what I did differently. Okay, so okay, all items. Okay, so we have all items, shopping items, shopping items. These are being defined by our database. We're returning, all data, we're returning shopping list. So, okay, interesting. In index, we have all items. Okay, save. I'm gonna run it one more time, see what happens. I'm going to open in the browser, internal service error. All right. It's coming from our app. Okay. Oh, okay. Here, all items, shopping items from Get database. This is where we are running into issues. Maybe this is it. I don't think that's it though. Okay. Okay. So I am following it, I believe, correctly, returning all data and shopping list, both of the variables. We're returning a tuple, and then we are assigning that to shopping items and all items here. Okay. Wonder. Okay. Random.shuffle. We're copying all of our data and we're assigning shopping list to, let me print out shopping list and see if that is the issue, because all data was running just fine earlier, kind of as a means of debugging this. All right. Again, but let's see. We're not getting our shopping list printed out. Okay. Oh, it looks like someone saw, um, just commented, what they think my error is. They think that I forgot the parentheses for the copy method. That would make sense. Most of the errors tend to be little things. Let's open up the port. Yep, that was it. Thank you so much. If you see any other errors along the way, feel free to comment those. But let's continue on so we can hopefully get the first part of our CRUD app up and running for the first part of the series before we start integrating everything in part 2 and 3. So now we're going to be moving on to removing items from the form. So this is the remove part of the CRUD application. And as you can see, each of the different letters in the acronym of CRUD, create, remove, update, delete, will have a method that is kind of like adjacent to them. As you can see, we have the different like HTTP protocols. So C is post, read will be get, and then update is going to be put, and then delete is just the delete protocol. So yes. All right, so we're going to be doing a lot of similar things. I'm just going to be copying those over for a remove items form. So we'll have similarly form action is going to be equal to just remove items. The method will be delete for this particular one. Actually post, never mind. We'll have our form, and then we will go on to actually delete our items. All right. Right, just verifying I didn't make any small errors. All right, I think that's everything. Okay, let's open up the port again. Internal service error. Okay, unexpected. Parentheses. Okay, let's see. For item in shopping items. Oh, I see. I did double of the curly brackets for the start of my end and for loop, and that's just what I need for the actual templating in Jinja. Okay. Let's refresh the page. Perfect. So as we can see, we're getting a random like 5 items, and we're able to remove the individual item. We don't have the actual URL of remove items yet because we haven't added that routing, but we are getting all of our items. And every time we refresh the page, as you can see, we're getting a new random 5 items. So it is truly random. And then I'm going to add in just a line break right here in between our 2 forms, so we have a little bit more of space. Okay, so let's keep at it. So we're able to get to the end of our templating. Okay, so right here, what we're going to be doing is loading our shopping list and our all items variables as sessions. And what this will do is it's going to create our variables as global variables so that we're able to actually manipulate them, add and remove items from our shopping list in different functions rather than on the index, because right now they're local functions in the index. Session is essentially just a globalization keyword for like specific to Flask. And I did sessions because I was talking about multiple. So we'll fix that to single session, and then we'll continue on with this. Okay. Okay, so right here, what we're going to be doing is just appending our shopping items. Like after we like have an item that we want to add with our add method. So here we're going to have session of shopping items. I'm going to append this basically. So what you just said there is that we need to add in some methods even to our main routing so that we're able to utilize those global sessions variables. Post and get. All right. Okay, so basically I'm skipping the part where she's talking about the deprecated kind of like deployment commands, and then we're just going to run this. Open it up, internal service error. Okay, let's see what's going on now. All items is not defined. Oh, we need the. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Cool. These all need to be put in quotations. All right. Cool. That should fix it. Sec. Let's refresh the page. Okay, perfect. So we're getting that, and then let's see if we're able to add our items properly. So we're just going to bring down this render template. So this is basically just going to render our template and show the updated shopping list after we append our new items. So let's see. I want to add in beef. I guess we're going to cook, I don't know, broccoli beef or something this week. Add in the item. We have beef. Let's go back to here. Okay. This is going to be all items, shopping. Okay. Interesting. Okay. We'll follow along and see what's going on. All right. Perfect. Okay, so I see what we need to do. We need to add in something to store our cookies. That's the reason we weren't able to see our updated list. Okay, so we're going to change our app dot configure, and then I'm just going to do the same variable. This is the like session cookie name. It's supposed to be like a secret cookie, but because like it's like all this code is public, it of course will just kind of be the same and not actually secret. So session cookie name, and then I'm not going to type in all of that. I think I'm just going to put cookie, I know we could do, let's say global hack week. Okay. And see if this fixes the difference we're getting. I'm going to refresh our page. I'm going to add just apples. Perfect. Okay, so it's adding because the cookies are remembering this rather than just posting it and then forgetting what we just added. Awesome. We're almost to the end of our functionality here. Okay, so what she just said was that we need to test it with a secondary item to make sure it's not overwriting the initial value we added, which in this case is the apples grocery item. So I'm going to put in beef. We're going to add it in. Oh, we are getting that. Let's see what's going on. Continue. So apples, add item, basil. Let's see why it's overwriting. Okay. So for this, we are appending select items in our form. Okay, so we just want our select items in here. Okay, for item and items, be adding the specific item. We're submitting it. Okay. Is there a difference in what we're doing? Okay, so she has add item with the method post. That's what I have. Select name for item and all items. We're doing that all the same. And the for loop ID is add button. That'll be for CSS styling, so that shouldn't be messing with it. Let's see. These need to be separate forms and separate divs, which they are. Okay, let's go over to app.py and see what's up. And add items, it needs to be session at shopping items is equal, or we're appending request form of select items, which is what we're doing. Okay, and then am I returning everything properly? Index all items is equal to session all items, shopping items. The only thing that's different is session.modified. Yes, okay, I think that's what it was. Set that equal to true. Okay, let's rerun and see if this fixes our error. Okay, so we have our initial list. The last item is fish. We're gonna add on apples, and then I'm gonna add on bread. Perfect. Okay, that fixed it. Every time it's always me forgetting some random thing. Perfect. Okay. Let's finish. All right. So basically what we're doing here is we're adding in the routing and the function for removing items from a grocery list. I'm going to just be listening to it and typing it out, and then I will talk y'all through it in 1 second. Okay, this needs to be shopping items, shopping items. I'm going to be setting that equal, or no, we're going to be finding the index really quick. So, okay, yes. So this is the index of the item that we want to be popping. And popping, for y'all that are unfamiliar, is a list method where you're able to remove an item from a list. So index I can type properly. And then I believe we'll just be doing checked boxes. It'll be shopping items. Session at shopping items. We're going to pop the index. Okay. Okay, so I put this too far out, it should be in here. And then the next thing we're doing is we're setting session.modified to true so that we're actually going to change the items that are being viewed in our Flask app. And then lastly, we're going to copy over our render template line so that we're returning our Flask application within this, like after this has been done, basically. Okay, so what we're testing for here is that we want to remove and add items to make sure that our functionality is all properly working. Okay, we're going to open in the browser. Perfect. No 500 error this time, which is great. So we're going to remove lentils. Interesting. Let's see. What am I doing differently? I'm going to delete all these open tabs. All right, let's refresh this page. Continue. I don't think it is. Okay, it's still running. Try removing it again. Okay, so let's see. Now remove items. So for item in our session, we want to find the index if the item is in session shopping items, and then assign the index to session. Okay, perfect. We're rendering the template. Are we getting checked boxes? This is what it is. All right. No, we have checked boxes is equal to request.form.getList. For item and checked boxes, if item in session. Okay. We're returning that properly. Let's see what's going on. Okay. Session.modified is true. And then we're returning that within the function. It's the same name as our remove items here. We have our methods up at the top. Let's make sure the methods are the same. Methods just need to be post. Maybe it is, I don't think it would be the uppercase. Because add items is that. Okay. Let me try running it one more time. All right. Okay, still not updating. Okay. So session.shopping items. We are popping the index. If any of y'all see a tiny bracket out of place, let me know. For item in checked boxes, we're getting this particular, we're getting the check boxes. That should be right too. Index of the item. That is all right too. Session.modified is equal to true. Interesting. Let me go back really quick and see what we're doing differently. All right. Popping our index. It should be a global variable for item and checked boxes. We're accessing that properly. All the variables are there. And we're returning our template being rendered with our updated session. Interesting. All right. Let's see if our add items is working properly. That's working. All right. What about remove? No. Okay. Submit values equal to remove items. Oh, I see. If that's it, I'm going to be a little upset. Another tiny thing. Let's see. Open the browser. Okay, we're going to add apples. I'm going to add chicken. I'm going to try and delete chicken. No, that wasn't it. Okay. I thought it originally was because there was the underscore in the value. Yeah, okay. Interesting. We are at time for this stream. We'll be debugging this in part 2 and then integrating kind of what we walked through at the beginning with our different application needs. We're going to be integrating a meal plan as well as a schedule plan in part 2 and 3. I'll be pushing this to GitHub right now, so you're able to see everything that we did. So I'm just going to do stream part 1, and I'll be committing everything to this repository, and I will share the bit.ly link again of the repository. Okay, so let's refresh this. Okay, perfect. And everything was updated. Here is the bit.ly link if y'all would like to access the code we went through today. And I can, will also be on stream again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern or other times that are translated on the website. So you're able to see like the schedule, but here is the code for today. And someone asked if we're going to be adding styling. We will be adding styling in parts 2 and 3 as we're integrating our meal plan as well as our like schedule plan as well. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hope y'all had fun, learned something throughout this. I definitely learned a lot. Definitely made a lot of small errors, but I hope you learned something, and I'm excited to kind of bring all the puzzle pieces together in parts 2 and 3. Be on the lookout for those tomorrow, and make sure to register your attendance for today's event. I'm just going to drop that in the chat as well. Thank you all so much for coming, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great time at Global Hack Week, and happy hacking.